Hello, it's Nadine with I Heart Gardening, and I'm bringing you my first video of the season. I actually have been quite busy this summer doing other things, going out and having fun, but I haven't spent much time in my yard doing projects at all. So it kind of got me thinking about doing a video about low maintenance because I hadn't done much maintenance at all this year. The garden, despite that, looks not too bad, but please keep in mind it is mid-September. We have had some cold nights, and please don't mind the fallen leaves and the slug damage. One of the things that I do is I mulch my beds. All of my beds had a bark mulch in them, and last year I got a chip drop, so I added that on top. A lot of the chip drop was finer and has settled down. You can see more of the chunkier bark mulch on top. What mulching does is it helps keep the weeds down, keeps the moisture in the soil, and adds organic matter, like fertilizer, so you have healthy plants. The other thing I do is I plant dense, which means I put plants close together to cover up the soil, again helping with that weed suppression and moisture retention. This bed is low maintenance because it's all perennials. I don't have any annuals in here. This is kind of a shady area, so I've got here King of Hearts, Bleeding Heart, a perennial geranium, a stilby, heuchera. This one is Midnight Rose. I think this is a gold charm spirea. There's a old-fashioned Bleeding Heart, a midwinter fire dogwood, a Kelsey dogwood, and there is a phlox just finishing up its bloom there. There's not a lot of in bloom at this time of the year, but now is the time for hydrangeas. This one is Strawberry Sunday, but the blooms haven't started turning pink yet. A good way to have the dense planting in your perennial beds is ground covers. This is a lamium here. Again, this is a shady area. This hydrangea is gorgeous. It's grown huge. I put this lamium last year in just tiny little pieces that I took from another yard, and it's gone nuts this year and provided a really nice border. One of the best things you can do for a low maintenance yard is make sure you're planting perennials that are suited for that particular growing condition. This is a wet, shady bed, and only certain types of perennials are going to be happy here. There's no point in struggling and trying to plant something that doesn't like wet, low light conditions. On the end there, I have a barrenwort, then a Japanese painted fern, a stilby, hosta, that one is Regal Splendor, an ostrich fern. Sorry, we've had dry conditions lately. That fern is a little brown on the edges right now. A lady's mantle. This here is Arctic Fire dogwood, and it has been a bit of a challenge finding a shrub that's happy here. But this shrub has done so well, I keep having to cut it back. And continuing on in the shady area, but not as wet, I've got Creeping Jenny, Morris Stilby, Lungwort, and more hostas. Hostas do take time before they fill in. It'll be a few years before they reach their full growth potential. And this is fairly new planting area because I had some potentillas that I took out of here and replaced. Most of these perennials are new last year or this year. I've got a periwinkle there that should spread. Another heuchera, hard to see amongst the fall colored leaves that have already dropped. And as this bed progresses, we get a little bit more light. So this is now a part sun area. So the plantings change a little bit. I've got lilies, a rose. Actually, let me show you this one. This is campfire rose, an all-time favorite. This rose has done extremely well. The blooms come out starting a pale yellow and then turn pink. And for some variety in the leaf, we've got a variegated weigela called My Monet. I have very few annuals in my yard because they're, well, you have to plant them every year. That's what makes it more work. This year I did some petunia and zinnia. Unfortunately, got eaten by slugs, so they're not looking too hot this year. But here's another area where I had to be very selective in what I put, because now this is a sunny, dry area. The birch trees actually suck all the moisture out of here. So I've got ground cover sedum. I think this one's called firecracker, but might just be laid down because it's reaching for some more light, and a geranium. I've got a blue fescue grass, and I actually have some herbs in here as well. I've got oregano and thyme and a dianthus. These ones do better in the dry conditions because I don't actually water unless I have the water on for the grass. This is another low maintenance perennial bed. I have very little in here that flowers. So I do have some variety in the leaf texture. There's an ostrich fern, a hosta with a blue color, and a hosta with a green color for some contrast, and then some purple foliage. There's a heuchera here. And this is bugbane, these purple ones. I think they're two different varieties. They might be hillside Black Beauty and maybe Black Negligee. But this is a fall tour, so we have to feature the plants that are blooming at this time, and the bugbane is just starting to bloom. They have these spikes of flowers, and I really only see one that's starting to open there. But I've got a little quickfire hydrangea there, and the clematis is blooming. Now this is quite a shady area, and it was a difficult task to find a clematis that will grow in shade. This one is Comtesse de Bouchard. This perennial bed has filled in quite nicely. I do have ground covers in here, including creeping jenny. There's a veronica here that has spread quite well called baby blue eyes. Now this is a plant that found its happy spot here. It did not like it dry. When I moved it here, it became happy. There is a clustered bellflower. So these plants bloom earlier in the summer. So now is not their time to shine. Now it is time for the ligularias to shine. This one here is called Twilight, and the bloom time is almost finished. Twilight is a slightly smaller variety of this bigger one I have here called Othello. Othello puts on quite a show because it is quite a large perennial, and this is a shady area here. I have one annual in this area. I've got a climbing nasturtium called Moonlight, and it has gone nuts in this area. So once I put the seeds in, I actually didn't do anything to it. I just kind of let it go and it went crazy. Another tip for low maintenance is to let the perennials do their thing. There will be a plant that wants to take over, and you know what? It's doing its job. This is another lamium here that has filled in, and I've kind of let it. I haven't controlled it, although it is easy control. I can just rip it out where I don't want it. And to be honest, I probably should, because it has taken over my King of Hearts bleeding heart. There is one in here that maybe I'll pull the lamium away so that those can grow again. This is a shady bed, so I've got another Regal Splendor hosta, one of my favorites. There is a ligularia here, the rocket, but bloom time has passed. And another clematis, étoile violette. I have a phlox here, and for some reason, I think a lettuce. I think just seeded, and for some reason I just left it. So you can't get any more low maintenance than this bed, because other than the original planting a few years ago, I haven't done anything to it this year at all. I have used all the principles of low maintenance gardening in the neighborhood walkway garden. Because it's on public land, for one, two, it's a bit away from my house, so I don't have a garden hose that reaches to water. I want everything in here to be self-sufficient, so I've got mostly all perennials and shrubs. I have added a few annuals for pops of color, like a wave petunia here and there. I do have ground covers like the creeping jenny and lamium. I have brought pieces of these for my own yard. One, because I know they're going to be reliable, but also because I didn't want to spend a bunch of money in here. I've got annual asters blooming. One's tucked inside that shrub. And this bed is quite well mulched. I got a chip drop last year and mulched all of this up again to help keep the weeds down and the moisture in. It does take a bit of time for perennials to fill in and reach their full size, so there are some annuals tucked in here and there. The annuals in this bed though, I do have some calendula that's self-seeded from last year, and Rudbeckia, I think, seeded itself. This geranium has grown very nicely here. Daylilies have done well, another very low maintenance perennial. The hydrangea again, now is its bloom time. Sunflowers, well, you just plant some seeds and they just do their thing. So other than weeding, I have not done a whole lot to this neighborhood walkway garden this year, and it's put on quite a show and filled in quite nicely. I'm quite pleased with it. And it's kind of a joy to come out here and see what's blooming today or what's blooming this week. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you got some tips for your low maintenance gardening. Thank you. See you next time.